What's up, YouTube? How's it been going? Long time no see. It has been a minute, and I haven't realized, but it actually has been quite a minute since I've actually been on camera. I think a little over a year, actually, which I didn't realize until in sometime in December. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I haven't been on camera since perhaps last December in 2021. But that just goes to show you how time can really fly when we're preoccupied with other things within our day-to-day lives. You know? And as well, I'm meant to have posted way before now, but I've just been distracted with some things again in my personal life and work life, personal life, both positive things and negative things, and as well in work life, positive things, negative things, and as well trying to do like this continuing educational program. But thankfully, that's done online. It can kind of be done on your own time to an extent. There's, of course, due dates and all that good stuff. But what I came on here to say, I'll leave that stuff for another day. What I came on here to really talk about is this whole situation with Chef Way, aka Assistant District Attorney Waymond Wesley. And shout out to the YouTubers, Paris Milan, Chrissy, and also Cynthia G, because they really talked about this story and helped to push this story within Black social media spaces. But for those of you who don't know, I'll give a quick rundown of the situation, a quick one, before I get into my whole commentary about the situation. As well, I'm going to give some commentary about the press conference that happened in Houston, Texas, as well. That's going to be part of it too. But a quick rundown though. So Chef Way, aka Waymond Wesley Jr., I believe, he is an assistant district attorney in Texas, I believe Houston, Texas. And somehow, some way, some social media posts were uncovered involving him saying some very disparaging things about Black women, especially darker skinned Black women. This wound up going viral on social media, and a lot of people, particularly a lot of Black women, have been calling for his firing or either his resignation as well. Chef Way has some endorsements, and they've been, Black women and probably just people to an extent, but especially Black women have been going to those sponsors and asking that they drop him, demanding that they drop him, etc. And when this situation happened and it went viral and Waymond started to lose his endorsements, he came out and issued an apology. But the thing is, though, that apology was just so weak sauce. I mean, it was just dead to the bed on arrival, though, because he didn't really mention the group that he offended. It was just like one of those, for those who I offended, I apologize. I was in the bad place in my life, but now I done found cooking. I apologize, and you will see a better me. The end. Seriously though, it wasn't exactly that. I'm, paraphrasing for the sake of like time and comedy, but basically that was the apology though. It wasn't really anything substantial, and because of that, people, especially Black women, was like, no, this ain't good enough. So they went on to put pressure on like the sponsors and also the legal system, saying, hey, nuh-uh, this ain't cool. He need to go. But I'm assuming his boss, or either someone who is in a position to hire and fire Kim Og, that's her name, she stood behind him, and that wasn't really a good thing in this situation, but that sometimes is what happens. So that happened, and folks didn't really appreciate that, especially darker skinned black women did not appreciate that. So they are pushing for his firing. And again, I'll say that it's not just darker skinned black women, I don't think, who are, pushing and advocating for this situation. I'm sure there's like black women across all skin tone spectrums who are part of this and who don't feel right about this and who are calling for action to be taken against Waymond in some way, some form or way, or whatever. So that's, more or less a rundown of the situation. So let me really get into my whole spiel about this situation here. And first, again, the apology. Very weak sauce, very, very much weak sauce, dead to the bit on arrival. He was not being specific in his apology in the way that he was being specific in his disparaging comments against black women, especially darker skinned black women. Therefore, I need him to specify, right? You were bold in your comments, so be bold in your apology. They love to serve it straight, no chaser, right? They love that. Oh, no, I serve it straight, no chaser. I keep it real. I keep it all the way 100. I keep it all the way 1,000 with y'all. Right? That's the attitude with it, right? Until somehow, some way, they get caught up, and now, they could possibly lose something. So now it's like, oh, to those who have been, I'm sorry. I was in a dark place. Again, with that dark, disparaging comment, right? Darkness, right? But maybe I'm reaching with that one, but still. And I was just surrounded by so much darkness. I bet. And does this come from a place, Chef Wade's comments, does it come from a place of like hatred, self-hatred, or self-loathing, or just being obnoxious, or a combination of all of those things? Because that is a conversation that is necessary to have if we really want to get to the root of all of this, anti-black woman, anti-dark skinned black woman, misogynoir type stuff. And, if we want to at least help the next generation of young black people, especially young black boys who will become young black men, I do think that is a conversation that needs to be had and something that needs to be explored, not necessarily within this particular situation. And when it comes to Chef Waymond being terminated from his position and losing his endorsements, but just in general. But I'll leave that conversation for another day. Back to this one, though. Black women, this is a bit of being a little bit petty, just a little bit of petty, though. The black women were mentioning that, Chef Wade got some Wade thighs. They were body shaming Waymond on social media. All that food he been cooking and eating going straight to his thighs. For the black women out there who are thinking about getting a BBL, just get on that Chef Wade diet, all right? Just because Chef Wade, he has definitely been eating his cornbread and collard greens, all right? Chef Wade got them baby making hips. Shout out to Fantasia for that song. He got them baby making hips, singing them baby making hips. rather than get smacked and not look back. I tell you what's up with that. Got that wobble, wobble, body like a cola bottle. Y'all go ahead and listen to that song by Fantasia, Baby Making Hips, after you watch this video. But back to the topic at hand, back to serious stuff though. All right. So, some folks are trying to argue that, oh, it's a preference. It's an opinion. Everyone's not going to like you, right? And Chef Way is entitled to an opinion, and he is entitled to a preference, definitely. But the thing is, for one, no one asked his opinion about this. He volunteered his opinion, and also sometimes people's opinions can lead to consequences. And as far as him having a preference, no one cares really about him having a preference, especially at this point. I think Black women at this point are really used to Black men having a quote unquote preference, especially when they start to get some money. Black women are aware that there is oftentimes, not all, but oftentimes a correlation between the amount of money that a Black man earns and the phenotype of his woman. The more money he earns, oftentimes, not all the time, but often enough, the woman and her phenotype goes further and further away from the phenotypically Black female phenotype. He may not leave the community entirely. He may get, a lighter skin or a very, exotic, quote unquote, looking Black woman who, may have a Black parent or Black grandparent in some cases. But, Black women know the deal, right? Black women ain't dumb. At least in situations like this. When it comes to dealing with Black men, yeah, sometimes Black women can be dumb in those situations. But not in this situation, though. But then again, maybe. Because there may be some Black women out there defending Chef Wade. But let me get back to the topic. So, it's colorism and misogyny and, misogynoir, because his comments were directed at Black women in particular. It wasn't so much women in general. So I think misogynoir would be a better term for this, and what Waymond was engaging in, and as well colorism. And he needs to be held accountable for those comments. Held accountable for that. And I know some people are saying, oh, he suffered from alcoholism. He was going through some things at that time. It's hard out here for a pimp. It's hard out here for a Black man. It's hard out here for the Black kind. You feel me? And I know, it is hard out here. But it's hard out here for everybody, though. That's the thing. Everybody going through something. Let's be real, especially now. Everybody going through something. I'm going through something. But just because you're going through something doesn't mean that, it gives you a right to say these comments or it excuses these comments. In the case with Waymond, don't blame it on the alcohol. Alcohol, baby. No, don't blame it on the alcohol. Because there's many people who suffer from alcoholism but don't engage in that sort of rhetoric. Right? Let's be real. If you go Google alcoholism and the symptoms of it and the effects of it, I'm pretty sure that saying colorist comments would not be listed amongst those effects that alcohol can have on people. Alcoholism, it does not make a person a colorist. It may end up exacerbating whatever ism they suffer from. In this case, colorism. It may exacerbate the colorism, but it wouldn't make him a colorist. So they try to blame it on the alcohol. So they tried that one. Then I know at some point, if not already, blame it on his black mama. Yeah, his black mama made him colorist. And are there colorist black moms? Sure, definitely. But here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. Chef Waymond, he is a full-grown adult with discernment, or at least he should have discernment, especially a high level of discernment, considering that he is an assistant district attorney. So he should have a very high level of discernment, both for his profession as well that should also overflow into his personal life. And there are some things that our parents teach us, and it's like, okay, this is great. And then there's some things that our parents teach us, whether it's directly or indirectly, where it's like, it's not so great. And it's like, nuh-uh. Right? Because when we become adults, and as well, probably even when we're kids, we often have discernment. We can figure out what's good and what's not good. Yeah, there are exceptions and things like that. But in this situation, I think Chef Waymond, let's be real, he knew that those comments were not good comments. He knew that those comments were very disparaging and very hurtful. That's probably why he said it, because he wanted to be disparaging and hurtful to black women, especially darker skinned black women. And let's be real, is this situation really an isolated incident? Is this is this the first time we ever heard of a black man saying some very disparaging comments against black women, especially darker skinned black women that are colorist and misogynoir? Is this really the first time? Is this an isolated incident? No, it's not. And to an extent, folks aren't even surprised. Like if he said this and specified like maybe non-black women or even just like lighter skinned and mixed biracial women who are mixed with black, that would have been a surprise or more of a surprise. Like, oh, like if his ire was directed at lighter skinned black women and biracial black women in particular, that would actually have been somewhat of a surprise because you don't really see that as much. Not to say that they might not get hit, but the hit doesn't seem to be as hard as it is with darker skinned black women. Unfortunately, black men disparaging black women, especially darker skinned black women, is more common than we want to admit as a community. And for some reason, I think we have a problem admitting that, because I think when we do, then we start to really try and see, okay, where does this come from? And I think that's just a path and a road that we as a community don't want to go down, because it's going to uncover a lot of unpleasant, ugly sentiments. But I do want to think about this though. Like, what if the tables were turned and a black woman, was making disparaging comments like this toward black men in particular, especially darker skinned black men, right? What if this was like, say, Kamala Harris, right? Because black men weren't really feeling Kamala Harris like that because they felt like she was against them and she was using her power and the authority in the position that she was in at that time. I think at one point she may have been a district attorney herself in California, and using that power and authority that she has to target black men. And really, I'm not sure if that's really true. To be real, I think it may have just been those were the dudes that needed to be targeted. Let's be real, it's not like black men have the best reputation for being upstanding citizens. Let's be real. See, but if someone were to throw that in black men's face, being in the position that Chef Wade is in, like an assistant a district attorney, that would be a problem, right? Like again, if this is Kamala Harris, right? What if Kamala Harris had some tweets resurface showing her disparaging black men, especially darker skinned black men? Come on, right? You know, saying that these black men are, they're monkeys, they're apes, they're gorillas, wild orangutans, chimps, bullet bags, criminals, thugs, sexual predators, jailbirds, high school dropouts, gangbangers, thieves, scam artists, con men, and just overall just subhuman scum. A virus on humanity that needs to be eradicated. Black men are born guilty, guilty as sin, right? If these comments were discovered and Kamala had made these comments, boy, folks would be going crazy, calling for her to be impeached. Can you impeach a vice president? I don't know. I guess calling her to be fired and step down from that position that she's in, no. And if it came out during the campaign, when her and President Biden were campaigning, boy, nah, no. You already know, like the cardinal rule, you do not go after the black kings. If you do, it will be HE double hockey sticks to pay. And oftentimes, I'll try to be a little bit fair here. Oftentimes, I'll say that when we talk about the effects that racism has on people, especially black people and black men, we often address it from a place of the economic effects and perhaps the social impact of racism and the educational impact of racism and things like that. But oftentimes when we talk about the effects of racism, we don't talk about it from a psychological perspective. As well as we don't really approach it from a cultural perspective either, but especially a psychological perspective where, what kind of effects does racism have on black people psychologically, living in a society that deems their existence as that of being lesser than? And the direct and indirect anti-black messages that black people, are inundated with on a daily basis. And since we're talking about psychology, I do want to bring up that situation that happened with the black female therapist not too long ago. And, I really felt like she was talking to a specific demographic of black men and not to black men generally, but perhaps maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. But she came on camera and said that basically black men need therapy, and she was serving it straight, no chaser, right? Black folks, they love to serve it straight, no chaser, but they don't love to drink it straight, no chaser, though. Especially black men, especially her being a black woman serving it straight, no chaser to black men. They weren't going for it. And black people, both black men and black women, came together and got that therapist fired. So it shows that, hey, we can come together to make some things happen, especially on behalf of black men. And that's great. That's wonderful, right? Now, we need to have that same energy in this situation, too. Because, again, a black woman docks that black female therapist. And I wonder, what this same black woman who doxed her thinks about this whole situation with Waymond Wesley. Just wondering. But I know sometimes, black women can be very black male identified. and look at the situation with black men with rose-colored glasses and think, oh yeah, no, that's not their fault. That's the system fault. That's what the white man did to the black king. Oh no, that's not that king's fault. His mama did that to him. His mama ran off his daddy, so that's why his daddy ain't there. Black women, we gotta do better for our kings and things, right? And then briefly touch on this. The whole situation with Megan Thee Stallion and Tory Lanez too really just is the icing on the cake in this situation. In situations like this, when it's like, okay, do black women get advocacy? And it's not like it never happens, but it's like if you're a black woman and you are a victim of some sort of a crime that was alleged to have been perpetrated by a black man, you're going to have to come with some receipts. You're going to have to come with a background check. You're going to have to come with the whole facts. Like, so much paperwork, quote unquote, to have your case within the black social media public, considered. And sometimes they'll just find a little bit of anything to have a reason to just throw it out. And if they can't find anything, they make up stuff. Because that's something that happens too. They'll just start making up stuff and just telling lies, just straight up lies on black women. And that's happened to black women who are YouTubers, where sometimes if they can't dig up dirt on you, they just make up things. So right there, that already shows you that these people are not the most morally upstanding people. And they are not operating from a place of just, oh, let's be fair. Oh, let's make sure we have all our facts. They ain't concerned with no facts. They're concerned with just making sure that black men as a collective don't suffer. And sometimes it's like, well, this situation is individual with Megan and Tory, right? But Tory represents like the black man in the situation, and Megan represents the black woman in the situation, and neither one of those particular parties are the most morally upstanding, righteous people. But at the end of the day, justice needs to be served. And thankfully, justice was served, right? And then, in situations like this, you'll have some folks saying, not all black men. Don't put us all in the body at the pokers and the Ray Rays, you feel me? Every black man ain't a pokey and Ray Ray. And again, black women be on that too. Not all black kings. Not all our kings like that. Not all I can't be doing things like that. And it's true. That is true. It's not all, right? But it doesn't have to be all for it to be a problem. Like if we were talking about racism, doesn't have to be all white people. No, it doesn't. It has to be enough, especially if they are in a position of power. It just has to be enough of them. All white people didn't own slaves, but it was still a problem, right? Slavery, the system was still a problem. And also in a situation like this, like, the quote unquote good black men aren't speaking up enough and aren't making their voice heard enough and not as loud as they should be, right? So that's part of the problem too, where it's like when these type of things happen, it's like, well, where are the good black men, right? Where are they? Because we kind of need them right now. We need them to come through and hold these type of dudes accountable. And it really, I feel like if it comes from black men, it can really have more of an impact. Especially like black men and black women together definitely have a great impact. And as well, just black men in general having a great impact too. Typically in communities, men are seen as leaders and thus set the tone for the community. In this case, black men are setting the tone either with their silence, thus being silent compliance, or either their advocacy for black women, or perhaps their advocacy for Waymond. You know. And then of course you have the crowd, particularly these black women, black male identified women, e.g., mammy pick me mule, that type, right? But I try to stay black male identified. And I try to be a little bit PC, just a little bit, just a little bit. But those type of women sometimes will come through and be like, "Oh, that could be my son," right? But like the Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion situation and situations like this, and it's like, at this point, I'm just like, F your son. And if your son is engaging in behavior like this, then you shouldn't be defending him. Is that so complicated? Is that so bad? Like, really? Like, and I think like that's partly part of the problem. Well, part of the problem. And I don't want to put this all on black women because it's not. Definitely, black men hold culpability in this as well. Because black men often just sit back and just let things happen as well. When it comes to parenting, oftentimes black men don't want to step up to the mantle of fatherhood for some reason. Not all, but enough. And also, these black women, like, it's all cool and good in the hood when their sons are wild and crazy and victimizing other people. But then when they wild and crazy demonic son turns on them, then it's like 911, call the police. Oh, get me some help. Oh, we don't handle this, right? And a situation like that recently happened. A black woman was attacked by her black son. And her son has a rap sheet as long as the Mississippi River. Like from here to Antarctica, her son, like so much criminality, right? Like, I'll pray for my son. Oh, we going through some things. Oh, the law gonna steal through. Right? Until she was the victim finally at one point or another, until it finally was her turn to be victimized. Then it's like, oh, we gonna get the police. Oh, we gonna handle this. Oh, no. Right. So black mothers and just black women in general, black male identified black women have to come to terms with who black men are in certain situations. Not all, but certain situations like this. And also, I want to talk about for a moment this press conference that happened. There was a press conference in Houston, Texas. And the press conference featured about 2 black men and a lot of black women. Black women of varying shades tend to be kind of like brown skin, dark skin, and light skin. And one of the light skinned sisters, she kind of looked like Tina Knowles to me, like Beyonce's mom. I was like, hey, is that Beyonce mama back there? Beyonce mama wouldn't be caught dead doing this stuff, right? But seriously though, but the way that the press conference started, though, a black man started off, and to be skin tone specific, a dark skinned black man started off the press conference. And I'm just going to show you how it started off, and then come back with my commentary about how it popped off, how this press conference popped off here.
See, man. Let me say this. I don't necessarily blame this young man. I blame him for his opinions. I don't blame him for the position that we're in right now. because he has stated his bias. I don't blame him anymore for applying for a job here at the DA's office than I would blame a convicted pedophile for applying at a job at elementary school. I would blame the principal who hired him. That's right. And a principal who knows he has this problem to leave him in office, right, or leave him in that position. Right. So my fight is not with him. My fight is with Kim Og. That's right. Because I say to her, the first thing you learn about law is it's supposed to be, you're supposed to not only avoid bias, but you also avoid the appearance of bias. Right. There is no way that you can have a young man who has put a picture of a black woman next to trash and said, I can't tell the difference, and say that there is no bias with that individual. You just can't do it. So since Kim Og won't do her job, or has not to date done her job by terminating this young man, I'm calling on every judge. When this young man comes in your court, and the defense bar, when y'all make y'all objections saying, I don't want to try this case with this young man because he has a bias, there's too many decisions and too much discretion that a prosecutor has to just let that bias go and assume that that bias is not exhibited somehow in the decisions he's making. So every defense lawyer, when you go into the courtroom and you have this guy there as the prosecutor, object to him. Ask that he be removed from the case. Right. Every judge, when he comes into your court for a trial, say, I'm not going to have this. You will not try a case in my court only to have the case reversed on appeal because there's bias by the prosecutor.
Request he be recused.
And not only that, it goes further than everyone ought to be as outraged as I am right now. Right. Because if you're a black woman as a defendant, there's no way you can go in and think you're getting a fair shake. Right. If that guy is the prosecutor. That's right. Because he's made too many decisions that impact where you are right there. Right. He makes a decision as to what offer is going to be, what you're going to be charged with, what plea offers will be offered to you. There are too many decisions that are made by him, so you can't feel like you're getting a fair shake. If you are a taxpayer in Harris County, you ought to be outraged that Kim Og would allow someone with this type bias to go in to try a case only to know that case is going to be reversed on appeal and you're going to pay to try it again. That's right. You ought to be outraged, and you ought to be calling her office saying, don't make us pay to retry cases again. Right. Don't put convicted criminals or would-be convicted criminals out on the street because they've been tried, they've been convicted, but because the prosecutor was biased, the case was overturned, and now you got a criminal out on the street. The thing she says she's trying to avoid. That's right. I say, Kim Og, you got to do better. No, she got and it goes. Well, she got to go. I don't think she's gonna resign, and it's gonna be a while before we get a chance to re-elect. But right now, she's in this job. She needs to do the job and get rid of this guy. He's told you he has a bias. He's exhibited that bias, and you can't let that bias go. And if the prosecutors, if the judges won't recuse this guy, then defense lawyers take it up on appeal. And taxpayers, the more we end up having to repay for cases to be retried, the more convicted criminals get their cases overturned as a result of this. At some point, we're going to say to Kim Og, that's not acceptable, and you have to do something different. You can't let bias exist in Harris County courts.
Well, the thing is, though, we're not here and angry because he applied for the job. We're not saying, hey, you shouldn't have applied for the job. And it's like, why are you coming at it from that perspective? Like, why? What made you approach it from that perspective? Because I feel like if you're going to do this type of stuff and this type of advocacy, like, go full force with it. Don't be half-heartedly doing this type of stuff. Like, it's like you kind of want to do it, but you don't want to go all the way with it, right? And I feel like some of these, like this dude in this situation, I don't know, perhaps maybe because on some level they can relate to the dude. Maybe. I feel like that's part of the situation. Or either he's on the dude's payroll, which I don't think that's likely. That could be a possibility, but I don't think that's likely, though. I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like for some reason he don't want to go all the way. Maybe he's trying to stay on code with him because he a black man. But I'm like, I don't think these are the black men that you should be on code with, though. Not this type of black man. And considering that Chef Wade, who I would consider to be brown skin, and I would consider Lonnie Johnson, the black man who was just talking, to be dark skin, I would consider that Lonnie would say, hey, you shouldn't be talking about darker skinned folks like this in such a disparaging way. And like he kind of does speak on that, but it's more so black women. He doesn't specify a skin tone, and that's the issue. There's no skin tone specification. Thus, darker skinned black women are kind of being a little bit lost in the conversation, or a lot of it lost. But I feel like darker skinned black men in general don't seem to feel a connection as much to, say, darker skinned black women when it comes to being in these type of situations. Where it's like, oh, he was talking about darker skinned black women. So, that ain't really about me. Like in their mind, darker skinned black men and darker skinned black women, there's no relation. Two completely separate groups that have no relation to each other in their minds. At least when convenient. Now, when it comes to these dudes wanting support for some project that they have, some GoFundMe that they have, some sort of a issue that they have or cause that they have, then it's like we all black of the berry, the city of the church, right? Then everybody is black of the black, right? No different. We all black. We gotta stick together, support each other, support the black business, support the black man, black and black, right? We know, right? We know the hustle. And next, I want to show a woman who spoke at the press conference as well. And this woman, she called it for what it was. She called out the colorism. I don't know if she actually said the phrase colorism, but she did specify dark-skinned black women. So kudos to her for that. She did get a little bit all lives matter with it, but all skin tones matter with it. But, I'm going to let that slide in this situation because I know that when you're in a situation like this and you're trying to advocate for against colorism and skin tone biases and things like that, you are going to be looked at as being divisive. And she does not want to come off as being divisive because that's not her intent to be divisive. However, in order for her to advocate successfully for darker skinned black women such as herself, she has to call it for what it is. So let me show you the clip. Here it goes.
Let me just say this and I'm done. It saddens me. I'm an educator. I'm a councilwoman. But let's be clear. Let me tell you why I'm hurt. He kept saying dark-skinned women. Let's be clear. That's what hurt me. You know why it hurt me? Because I'm a dark-skinned woman. You know why it hurts me? We have students that's watching that are dark-skinned. And let me say this. It's beautiful. It's beauty in every color, light, bright, whatever, in the rainbow of African American women. It is a rainbow. You can choose what you want. You want light, you want dark, you want whatever. But to say, yeah. But to just pinpoint dark-skinned women, I got a problem with that. So what we have to do, it says Kim Ogg, but it's the society in which we live. Your governor, I'm going from the top to the bottom. We're going to change the dynamics of this right now. All are important, whether you're light like her or dark like me. I am dark, a dark-skinned, beautiful black woman, and it's got to stop today. We are not going to stop. Flowers, myself, all these ladies, we're going to fight to the end. I'm not only fighting for the light skin. I'm fighting for all black women, the kids that are tired of being looked upon because of their skin. When will this stop?
So
Got
what do you
to.
think about
Well,
that
guess what?
situation
It's going to
here?
start with me.
What do you think
Because
about
I'm
that?
going to let
Now,
everybody
I'm saying
know
kudos to
that
that,
if you're light, you're
sisters.
pretty.
Kudos to
If
that
you're
black
dark, you're
woman
pretty.
That's
I don't care.
going up there,
Enough
speaking truth
is enough,
out,
and I'm done.
calling it for what it is.
Right.
What it
We
is.
want to thank.
And again, kudos to that woman. Will people have a conversation about what that black woman said, what that darker skinned black woman said? Probably not. There'll probably be conversations in little pockets of social media, but they ain't gonna turn it into something that goes viral. Because Mark, as the YouTuber, I'll give her a shout out, as the YouTuber Lashid for You said and says, nothing goes viral coincidentally. Nothing goes viral coincidentally. Remember that. And next, I want to talk a little bit about Quanell X. And Quanell X is the guy who is in the frame, and he's wearing glasses, like the dark skinned black guy that is in the shot, and he's wearing glasses. Pretty much the only dude in the shot. So there you go. And I'm just gonna show you what he had to say, and he went right after that lady spoke. So I'm going to show you that, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about him, and also a little bit about Lonnie Johnson, the guy who started the whole press conference off. So let me show you the clip.
Thank all of the sister soldiers who attended this press conference today and spoke. What is so devastating to all of us is that this is a black man we're talking about, not a white guy.
That's right. That's right.
Normally when we talk about someone making hateful remarks on social media about the skin color of black people, in particular black women, we're thinking about some non-black person. But this brother is a real modern day fiddler. He is a modern day Jim. If you ever seen Uncle Ruckus, he's personified here at this courthouse. There's no way that we can allow this brother to continue to work in this courthouse and represent all tax-paying citizens of Harris County. And I firmly agree with those other speakers who've said this. Had he done this same behavior and committed these same acts on social media about gay women, God forbid about Jewish women, he would have been a real Kyrie Irving right here.
That's right. Oh, yeah.
They would have gave him a list of demands that he had to meet.
That's right.
They forgave him, but gave him conditions to the forgiveness.
So
we have to do better. And I agree with the brother who spoke.
And I think that
Brother Lonnie, he's right.
Definitely. I'm not
we got to do better.
Points.
This is a disgrace.
However, I do have
so thank you, brothers and sisters, for being here. Are there any questions?
Mr. Quanell X, as well as
thank you for your presence and your patience when we started late. Thank you so very kindly for being here. Thank you.
Lonnie Johnson. And to be fair, my receipts on Lonnie Johnson, there could be a possible discrepancy with the receipts I got on him, just because I wasn't able to find any sort of shot of him and his wife together. But still, based on my Google schmoogling that I did, I think that I found a photo of Lonnie Johnson's wife. Lonnie Johnson, again, is the guy who spoke first at the press conference. And, I would say that she's kind of more like maybe a safe brown or a peanut butter type of color. She can kind of like, quote unquote, exotify herself a little bit with maybe her changing her hair texture and her hair color, maybe putting on a little bit of makeup, maybe. And as well, she can sort of ethnify herself, quote unquote, by wearing her hair in like sister locks or dreads, etc. Right? So, I'm going to just show a few photos of the sister and just let you see what, just see what you think about, right? So, what do you think, sisters? What do you think? Does she get your stamp of approval for being a black and a black sister? Or it's like, maybe. It's like, it's good enough, I guess. Or you're like, nah, I ain't feeling it. It's up to y'all. I'm just presenting the receipts right now. All right. And I also got a couple of receipts on Mr. Quanell X. Senor Quanell X. All right. Que lo que, mi tigre? All right, we're going to see these receipts, though.
I want my son, as I always say to him, son, don't be like everybody else. Dare and have the courage to be different. And I always stress to him, discipline, discipline, discipline in every aspect of his life. Because if he holds fast to the discipline, he will be successful and he will be a great young man.
Those receipts, and you see Quanell with his son, Quanell Jr. All right. And, proud father, I know, right? Hey, his son that made it into collegiate football. That's what's up. That's what's up, right? Kudos to Quanell for being an active father in his son's life. Definitely. But since we're talking about skin tone and all that good stuff here, I had to bring this up, right? And probably a couple of other people brought this up too, all right? You notice that Quanell and his son, like their phenotypes, they're different. And of course, there's no crime in having a phenotype that's different from your parent, right? There's not. My phenotype is different from my parents, both of them. But the thing is, based on how Quanell looks and based on how his son looks, people, me included, but also some other people are speculating, hey, how does Quanell Jr.'s mother look? Right? Because, based on how Quanell looks, it seems like, oh, well, assumably, Quanell Sr., based on how he looks, a lot of people are speculating that perhaps Quanell Jr.'s mother is maybe non-black. Some people are saying that she's just straight up white. I don't know. But I think that his mom might have been in a shot for a brief second. Maybe it's just me speculating, because there was a woman on the bleachers, sitting on the bleachers. I'm like, that could be Quanell Jr.'s mom. Maybe. But I wasn't able to find any photos of them together as a family, whether it's them all three together, whether it's just the son and the mom together, or the dad and the mom together, etc. I wasn't able to find that. And just FYI, Quanell Sr. used to be out in these streets too, slanging dope back in the day. And granted, he's not doing that anymore. He, was able to change his ways and get on the righteous path. Definitely great. Just something to be aware of. But another thing to be aware of is, like, sometimes in spaces like these, it's possible that there could be some people with some color-struck biases. Possibly. I don't know. I don't know Quanell X Sr. on a personal level, and I'm not very familiar with him to say completely yay or nay. I don't know. And as well with Lonnie Johnson, I don't know. But I think it's something to be aware of, though, or something that you should be aware of. Being aware of, and it could potentially factor into this situation at the press conference where it's like folks ain't really trying to speak on the colorism aspect of it because maybe perhaps they themselves could possibly have some culpability within colorism of some way or another. And thus don't want to throw him completely to the wolves, maybe, because it could be them. Maybe they might get caught up in something, But I feel like maybe Quanell X, he might be smart enough to have scrubbed, if it existed, scrubbed his social media accounts and made sure that no disparaging comments would come up, or that he erased those disparaging comments if he ever made them. But the truth will come out eventually, whether it's a positive truth or a negative truth. It'll come out eventually, and when it does, we can have a great discussion about it and hopefully address some problems that really need to be addressed, if it's a negative truth, of course. If it's positive, then hey, that's what's up, and it's great, and let's celebrate that. But I'm going to bring this video to a close. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I know it's a longer video, but I just had some things to say, plus I've been gone for a minute. So, it's a longer video. My bad to the people who kind of like shorter videos, because sometimes I'm like that too. I was like, it's a long video. But sometimes, I can deal with a longer video depending on the topic and the situation and my attention span at that particular moment and my time, etc. Again, if you made it to the end, I thank you very much. And I'll also ask you to post a comment in the comment section that lets me know that you made it to the end. And I want you guys to post the following comment. It's a bit of a mouthful, but a very important message nonetheless. And the comment is, or the phrase, dark-skinned Black women's lives matter too. Again, dark-skinned Black women's lives matter too. And I put 2 on the end just in case someone want to come through and be like, all Black women lives matter. Why you just saying this to dark-skinned Black women? Oh, all Black lives matter. All lives matter too. I shouldn't even have to do that, but just in case. But again, thank you very much for watching this video. And then also, let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below, too. Until the next video, adios and goodbye for now.